Okay, how to survive a leaky home. Yvonne, thank you very much for joining me. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. The leaky home is repaired, so I feel a lot better.
That must be one of the most stressful times in your life, is having to deal with a leaky home.
It is. It seems remarkable. You think, at first you think, well, there's people who are homeless all over the world. There are refugees. I shouldn't really find this so terrible, but it just gets worse and worse and worse. And I think the worst part is when you've moved out, actually, when you're sort of in limbo for such a long time. In fact, you feel like your whole life's in limbo while the whole thing's going on.
And it can be quite a long process, can't it?
It can be, partially because I think people are in denial a long time. You know, when you first find out, you actually don't want to do anything. It's almost like you're grieving, so you put your head in the sand for a while.
You think, no, this isn't happening.
This isn't happening, that's right. And then when you put your head up out of the sand, you realise there's so much to learn. It can be quite daunting. And then you've got to go through the court process, and that takes time as well.
So, well, it's great. I mean, obviously, it's sad for you guys that it happened to you, but the upside of that is that you've written a book now to help other people that are in the same situation. Because you've had, sadly, a first-hand account of it all.
I know. And I realised how much there was to learn. I had to learn about building and construction terms, and I had to learn about wood rot and mould and the court system and things that I would normally never take any great interest in. So I realised, and then when you go out and talk to people, it's all word of mouth. You're sharing information, aren't you? What did you do? Oh, you did that. Oh, okay, all right. And you realise there's a degree of misinformation out there. So I thought, well, I could just put together a book about this, just to make it simple, to help people through the process and make it quite cheap so they could afford to buy it.
Exactly, and use it as a fantastic reference.
Use it as a guide.
That's right.
That's right.
So, Yvonne, it started for you. You bought what you thought...
we bought a house, and it was built in 2001, and there was a previous owner who'd lived there for 6 months, but we bought it from that person, and it looked very, very smart. It was concrete block on one side and weatherboard and plaster, and we thought it was fabulous. There was no talk when we bought it in 2002. There was talk of leaky homes, but I don't know, it didn't penetrate it. We didn't even think about it. And it was a beautiful house, and it seemed very new. And then after about 5 or 6 years, there was one windowsill that started to leak, and that was actually, I look at it now and I think I'm lucky, because only 2% of leaks are visible. So that's 98% are invisible.
So you would never know.
You would never know. There's people sitting on homes now that they say to me, oh, but my house looks lovely. There's no cracks, there's no leaks. And I know that 98% are not visible. And I feel quite, you know, sort of relieved that we found that windowsill. So we got the builder developer in a few times, and he said a window person did it, and it never really came to much. And eventually my husband said, you know, I think maybe we should have a test. And I thought, oh, all right. But it is like men's health. You don't really want to, do you? You don't really want to know.
Just keep putting it off.
Yeah. And so then we had that, the drill test, and that showed disturbing readings. And then we had like a biopsy of big cutout bits, and that showed readings of 90s. In some places there was no timber to put the wood into. No timber at all. And anything 18 above 18 is regarded as, you know, excessive. And we had scores in the 90s. You feel embarrassed, because I'm the sort of person who goes around telling everybody we've got a leaky home. My husband was mortified, because you feel like I suppose it's like putting money in a bad finance company. You feel like a twit.
Yeah. But how are you to know? That's the thing.
I know, but you sort of regard yourself, I suppose it's like the investors, as a smart person who makes good decisions, and we thought it was a solid house. And here we were being caught out. So there's a time where you just stand there going, Lord, how did this happen to us?
So what's the outcome been for you, Yvonne?
We went through the weathertight homes process. Other people go through the High Court.
So there are two options
There are two options, that's right. And they've both got their merits, but we opted to go with the tribunal process. And we ended up going to a hearing. Most actually settle at mediation, and they don't go to a hearing. We went to a hearing and we got a pretty good outcome, but the fact is, it will always cost you money. And
that's a given.
It will always cost you money. Even with the best outcome possible, you will never cover your costs. So you are going to be forking out 100, 200,000 at least.
And that's to fix the problem, or do you...
Yes, we had it totally remediated. Absolutely. And my advice to people is to get the very best people involved, people who really know what they're doing. Don't just get a mate who's a builder to do the assessment. Don't just get people who are qualified, because it does make a difference. It's half the reason we got into this problem, I think.
And are builders being held accountable?
Yes, builders are. They are, but it's not entirely their fault. There's a whole range of people who are at fault. Yeah, they're at the bottom of the heap, and there are people at the top of the heap. You know, everybody is responsible, really. There's a number of agencies and a number of organisations who are all responsible. So our builder-developer had gone bankrupt. That happens quite a lot.
That's very common, isn't it?
Very common. So with a lot of people, there's no one left standing because they've had a private certifier, the builder's gone, so they're faced with having to pay it all for themselves.
It's an absolute, it's one of the most stressful times of your life. The good thing is how to survive a leaky home. All of the information that you need first-hand from Yvonne van Dongen is here, and it really is a book that you do need to purchase and read, and it will help you along the way and hopefully make you feel a lot better as well.
Hopefully.
Yvonne, thank you so much. Really interesting, informative information there. This book is available in all good bookstores now.
In all good bookstores, yes.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much, Megan.
You're welcome, Yvonne, and good luck.